I mean, I just feel like anybody would understand at this point. Like, I'll retire the heavyweight belt if I have to.
Fight fans, hold on tight, because what's happening right now inside the UFC is nothing short of historic. In a shocking turn of events, reports are flooding in that the entire heavyweight division has officially walked away after a dramatic salary cut order from Dana White. That's right. From top-ranked contenders to rising prospects, the biggest men in mixed martial arts are standing together and saying one thing loud and clear: we're done with it. This all started earlier this week when insiders leaked news of a new UFC pay structure that would drastically reduce fighter compensation, particularly in the heavyweight ranks. The proposed pay cuts reportedly slashed guaranteed fight purses, appearance fees, and even potential bonus payouts. Fighters, who already face grueling training camps, brutal weight management, and life-altering injuries, saw the move as a breaking point. Within hours of the news spreading, locker rooms, gyms, and online communities were buzzing, and then the walkouts began. According to sources close to several major fighters, the tension between Dana White and the heavyweight roster has been building for months. Disputes over fighter pay have always been a shadow over the UFC, but this time the frustration hit critical mass. Some athletes allegedly refused to sign new contracts, while others terminated existing ones in protest. Several teams and coaches have voiced public support, calling it a stand for respect and a fight outside the cage that had to happen. Fans around the world are stunned. The heavyweight division, long regarded as the crown jewel of combat sports, is now on life support. This is the same division that gave us legends like Cain Velasquez, Stipe Miocic, Francis Ngannou, and Daniel Cormier, the knockout kings, the crowd pullers, the faces that filled arenas and pay-per-view cards. Without them, the octagon looks emptier than ever. Insiders say Dana White has been in closed-door meetings with UFC executives and legal teams, scrambling to find a solution. Whether that means renegotiating contracts, finding new talent, or creating a temporary tournament to fill the void. No one knows yet. What's certain is that this situation could fundamentally change the UFC forever. Analysts are already calling it the biggest fighter protest in MMA history. Some say it's about money. Others say it's about respect. But whatever it is, this isn't just a story about paychecks. It's a story about power. As one former champion reportedly said off-camera, "We risk everything every time we step in that cage. Broken bones, concussions, surgeries. If they think we'll take less after all that, they're crazy. We're done with it." And just like that, the most powerful division in the UFC has gone silent. The gloves are off, but this time, the fight isn't happening in the octagon. It's happening behind closed doors. The future of the heavyweight division, and maybe the UFC itself, hangs in the balance.
Time somebody comes out and says, "Oh, you don't pay your fighters, you don't pay your fighters." I could come out and do this every fuck. I'm not. I don't give a shit. You don't like the way we pay our fighters? Too fucking bad. Go start another MMA organization and you go fucking figure out how to do it. And you can pay them $10 million a fight, $30 million a fight, whatever you want to do. We run a business. We've been very good at it. Not only do we run the business, we continue to grow the sport and take everybody along with us, Tonight, like Lorsanko said, this whole contender series, to all foreign guys that are coming in here to fight. Everybody makes money, everybody makes a living. There are some hard stories and some sad stories. Some guy came in at this. You're either fucking good enough to be here or you're not. This is the big leagues. It's like the NFL. You can either last here or you can't last here. But people get paid. People get paid a lot of money.
According to Dana, the reality is more complex than most people think. He argued that the UFC's financial model is built around long-term growth and global expansion, not short-term payouts. Everybody talks about fighter pay, White said, but what nobody talks about is the business itself. We're running more live events than ever before, and the demand is off the charts. Every arena we go to is packed, and there's truth to that. The UFC has seen record-breaking numbers in recent years. From Las Vegas to London to Abu Dhabi, nearly every card has sold out. Dana pointed to this as proof that the organization is thriving and that fighters are benefiting from being part of the biggest stage in combat sports. He insists that fighter compensation is tied to performance and popularity, claiming that fighters who move the needle get paid accordingly. However, critics aren't convinced. Many analysts argue that while the UFC's profits have skyrocketed, fighter pay hasn't kept pace. According to multiple reports, UFC athletes take home roughly 15 to 20% of total revenue, a stark contrast to leagues like the NFL or NBA, where players earn around 50%. The growing financial gap has fueled tension between fighters and the promotion, with several top athletes publicly demanding better contracts and more transparency. Some fighters have taken their frustration to social media, while others have left the organization altogether. Former champions and up-and-coming contenders alike have voiced concerns about the risks they take: training injuries, concussions, surgeries, and long-term health damage, for paychecks they believe don't reflect the danger or the dedication the sport demands. Dana White, however, isn't backing down. He doubled down on his stance, saying the UFC has created more millionaires than any other fight organization in history. He pointed to stars like Conor McGregor, Israel Adesanya, and John Jones as examples of fighters who turned their success into financial empires. In his words, "You want Conor McGregor money? Do Conor McGregor things, knock people out, sell pay-per-views, and get people talking." Despite the controversy, the UFC continues to thrive as a business. Every event seems to break new records for ticket sales and global reach. But behind the bright lights and roaring crowds, the debate over fighter pay continues to grow louder. So the question remains, is Dana White right when he says the UFC's pay model works, or are fighters finally due for a bigger share of the spotlight and the profits? One thing's for sure, this fight isn't happening inside the octagon. It's happening behind the scenes, and it could shape the future of the UFC for years to come.
There seems to be, at least among some of the fighters, a desire to get paid more. We can all imagine that would be the case, of course. But, you know, speak to me about this idea that basically you lock in fighter income at around 18% of gross profit, and a lot of other sports closer to 50%. And a lot of your fighters say, hey, we'd be happy for something more than 18%. Why can't we get it?
Yeah, that's been going on for 20 years, too, and it'll be going on for the next 20 years. I don't think you're ever going to see a scenario where you see a fighter, or anybody, for that matter.
The debate over UFC fighter pay has become one of the most polarizing topics in combat sports, and analysts across the MMA world are weighing in with strong opinions. With Dana White defending the UFC's pay structure and fighters voicing growing frustration, the conversation has exploded into one of the biggest off-octagon battles in years. Former UFC welterweight Matt Brown was one of the first to speak up. In a recent interview, Brown argued that while it's easy to point fingers at the UFC or Dana White, the issue is more complicated than most fans realize. He believes fighters themselves bear some responsibility for not pushing back or organizing for better deals. According to Brown, the UFC is a business, and like any major company, its goal is to maximize profits. You can't blame a business for doing business, he said. If fighters want better pay, they need to come together and make it happen. On the other side, current lightweight contender Michael Chandler took a more balanced approach. With the UFC's massive $7.7 billion media rights deal with Paramount set to start in 2026, Chandler believes that fighters are already benefiting from the sport's financial growth, even if the numbers don't show it yet. He's argued that many fighters are doing pretty fine under the current structure, and that patience will pay off as the organization expands its global reach. Former welterweight champion Kamaru Usman also entered the discussion, acknowledging that fighter pay should be higher, especially given the risks and sacrifices that come with the sport. But Usman also reminded fans that not every fighter competes solely for money. Some chase legacy, fame, or the pure love of competition. Still, he admitted that watching celebrities and crossover boxers make millions has made UFC athletes far more aware of the financial disparities. Heavyweight contender Chris Daukaus offered a practical view, saying that while he supports higher pay for fighters, it's unrealistic for every athlete to demand million-dollar contracts. He pointed out that star power matters, and that those who fill arenas and sell pay-per-views deserve to earn more. The challenge, he said, is finding a path for up-and-comers to grow into those bigger paydays. Analysts collectively agree on a few key points. UFC fighters currently take home about 15 to 20% of total company revenue. a much smaller share than athletes in leagues like the NFL or NBA, where players receive roughly 50%. That gap has become a central talking point in the pay debate. Many experts also highlight the lack of transparency around fighter earnings, from hidden bonuses to undisclosed pay-per-view cuts, making it difficult to assess who's truly being paid fairly. Some analysts have even floated the idea of fighter unionization, saying that without collective bargaining power, athletes will continue to have little leverage against the promotion. But for now, Dana White remains unmoved. He maintains that the UFC's pay system works, that the organization has created more millionaires than anyone in combat sports, and that fighters who perform, promote, and sell will always be rewarded. As the UFC continues to grow into a global entertainment powerhouse, the divide between fighters and management remains one of its greatest challenges. The question isn't just about dollars, it's about value, respect, and recognition in a sport where the stakes are as high outside the cage as they are inside it. And with analysts, fighters, and fans all weighing in, one thing's clear. This isn't a fight that ends with a knockout. It's a battle that will define the next era of the UFC.
Dana White was brutally confronted to his face about UFC fighter pay by a journalist from PBS. Yes, a journalist. We very rarely see Dana White venture out and do interviews with actual journalists, and this woman came prepared and pushed back on Dana White, and he did not like this interview. And what you'll see here is him continuing to move the goalpost every time she gives a logical pushback to what he's trying to say. He has to jump somewhere else and jump somewhere else and jump somewhere else, almost to the point it's nonsensical, and she keeps pushing back. And I'm telling you this right now, this interview here was 7 minutes and 39 seconds. This is the best Dana White interview I have seen probably in the last decade. And this woman actually did some real journalism here and actually pushed back on Dana. And we're going to add some context for some things she didn't push back on, because Dana White's talking points here are regurgitated by the MMA community, and there's nobody pushing back on this absolute dog shit from Dana White. So we're going to break it all down. Let's start off with her. I mean, this is the very beginning of the interview. We're at 52 seconds. She starts asking about, why are all the top boxers getting paid the big bucks and not the same for the top UFC fighters? What's going on there, Dana? And that already pisses Dana off. 52 seconds in. Listen to this.
Okay. You intend, and correct me if I'm wrong, to apply certain characteristics of the UFC. For example, one championship belt, unlike boxing.
That's all for today's update, fight fans. If you enjoyed the breakdown, drop a like, hit that subscribe button, and stay locked in right here at Octagon HQ, your home for everything UFC. Every punch, every headline, every time. W.